Distinguished President of the Government of the Republic of North Macedonia, distinguished representatives of the Jewish community, Your Excellencies, distinguished members of the Jewish community, dear guests and friends. Today, 80 years after that terrifying day, with a lump in our throats, we will speak of the black stain in human's existence for this dark chapter and fate of our friends, innocent souls, the Macedonian Jews. As every year, this one too will send the same message: we can forgive, but not forget. Most important, it should never happen again. Let everyone we say today be a condemnation for the world. Let it be a reminder about the consequences of an ideology based on anti-Semitism, but also an obligation for the future generations to create a world without discrimination, negation, and violation of humans' dignity and rights. The sad fates are still in our memory. They wanted to destroy their morale, to delete their identity, to diminish their existence. They, 7,444 citizens are not only statistics, they have names and surnames, they have identity. It is our obligation to preserve their memory. In the very beginning of this commemorative evening, I would like to invite the President of the Government of the Republic of North Macedonia, Dimitar Kovachevsky, to present his speech. You may take the floor.
Почитувани граѓани,
Distinguished citizens, distinguished community in Macedonia, people Levi, distinguished ambassador of Israel, Simona Frankel, members of the Knesset of the State of Israel, International Relations Director of the American Jewish Committee, Rabbi Andrew Baker, representatives of the Jewish communities from abroad, distinguished ministers and other representatives of the government of the Republic of North Macedonia, members of the Assembly of the Republic of North Macedonia, representatives of the Office of the President of the country, representatives of the diplomatic corps in the country, representatives of the Macedonian Academy of Science and Arts and other institutions in the country, dear guests and attendees. Never more anti-Semitism, racism, and xenophobia. Never more fascism. I deliver this clear and concise message this evening with a clear conscience, because our history, as well as the present, prove that we are always on the right side of history. Democrats for whom no one is and cannot be more or less important. And that is why we have the moral right and values to oppose to all different forms of hatred, speech, and intolerance. The world needs the voice of each one of us, as peoples, as countries, as humans, to hear what we support and what we do not, to hear what is right and what is wrong. This determines the world that we live in. This defines our shared future. The Holocaust did not start with concentration camps. It started with anti-Semitism and spreading hate speech on the streets. And to ensure a safe future for the generation following ours, all of us today must prove that we have learned the lessons from the past. We'll do this only if we stand decisively against the extreme nationalistic and populist ideologies leading to fanaticism. Indifference towards extremism is complicity and is unacceptable. These truths individually cannot be subject to revision. It is the recipe for repeating the terrible tragedies such as the Holocaust. Those of us who remember it are obligated to work actively and to teach the younger, so that this can never happen again. So that not a single child's dream can be terminated with an abominable evil. So that no one can be robbed and expelled from their homes, as it happened on March 11, 1943, when the deportation of Macedonian Jews from Bitola, Štip, and Skopje started. 7,144 children, women and men were forcefully gathered at the then so-called monopole in Skopje so that later they can be deported to the death camp in Treblinka. However, the echo of the terrible loss of more than 6 million innocent children, women and men, victims of the Holocaust, that echo that we hear even tonight in this hall will continue to resound forever, so that it can remind us to the message to never happen again. Another witness to this are the thousands fallen, known and unknown fighters in the anti-fascist struggle, and the peoples always won their battles together as they won the battle over fascism. Among them there were Macedonians, Albanians, Turks, Serbs, Vlachs, Roma, and Bosniaks, as well as others. The Jews in our country later were part of the creation of this country. The Jews today are part of the mosaic of ethical, religious, language, and cultural diversities in the Republic of North Macedonia. And we are building our country together into one society for all, with equal rights and responsibilities for all the citizens. Together we secured Atlantic future for the Republic of North Macedonia. Together we are walking the strategic European path, and together we will secure the European future. The Republic of North Macedonia, being a functional multi-ethnic democracy, through an example showed the region, but also Europe and the world, what it means to respect, encourage, defend, and nurture diversities. We believe that these policies of friendship and understanding contribute and will continue to contribute to the regional and European security context. We showed through actions that diversities on any matter are not an obstacle, but an advantage. This is our medal. Following wise and responsible policies, the Republic of North Macedonia will become a member of the European Union, a process for which I know we have the support of the Macedonian Jews. Dear attendees, the civilization value of the generations of today is to build a world equal for all. We are facing a war on the European continent, a war that reminds the world that the fight for equality, democracy, and right to self-determination shall never cease. This war with enormous human suffering reminds us why it is important to be united and to remain united. All of us who carry anti-Semitism, democracy, acceptance of difference in our bones, must remain united and again on the right side of the history. It is our sacred duty to prevent the dark crimes against Jews from Macedonia in the camp of Treblinka from being forgotten, and so that they can never happen again, in the name of good shared future of the current and future generations. Thank you for your attention.
Почитувани,
Distinguished, this was the first appearance of the choir of National opera and ballet, with the very fact that today, even 80 years, we are all gathered here to pay our respects, we confirm that the Holocaust will not be forgotten. However, we need to have some lessons learned and to offer them to the younger generations. These events from the past should never be forgotten, so that the evil cannot happen again, because the Holocaust did not start with the camps, but with the anti-Semitism and spreading hate speech. The awareness and education of the youth for the terrifying Holocaust are of key importance to understand the consequences of the most terrible occurrences in the world history. It is a moral and human obligation to relive this message and to prevent any form of hatred and intolerance. And these are very much present with the social networks today. Now I would like to invite the president of the Jewish community, Mr. Pepo Levi, to present their speech. You may take the floor. Distinguished President of the Government of the Republic of North Macedonia, Mr. Kovachevsky. Distinguished President, Distinguished Ambassador, Madam Simona Frankel. Distinguished representatives from the Knesset of the State of Israel, Mr. Hamad Amai and Madam Tsiga Malaku. Honorable Rabbi Andrew Baker. Dear representatives of the World and European Jewish Congress, Stern and Herzog. Distinguished representative of the European Jewish Congress, Madam Bagdasarova. Distinguished ministers and ambassadors. Distinguished members of the diplomatic corps. Distinguished representatives of the Assembly, local self-government, army, police, non-governmental organizations, and religious representatives. Dear members of the Jewish community, and dear Sheila Autarats, dear ladies and gentlemen. March 12th, 2023, exactly 80 years and 1 day since the unprecedented massacre of the Macedonian Jews. Why 1 day? Because yesterday was Saturday, and Jewish people don't work on Saturdays. They celebrate Shabbat. Their faith, culture, and traditions are slightly different from the faith, culture, and traditions of other nations. Is that why Hitler had to extinguish 6 million Jews? Is that why Nazi Germany and fascist Bulgaria, led by Hitler and Tsar Boris III, should have killed 7,144 Jews? The Treblinka camp in occupied Poland remained a silent witness to the tragedy of the Macedonian Jews, where 98% of the Macedonian Jews population was killed in the most brutal way. I do not know, but I think that this is the largest percentage. There were several saved Jews. Sheila Autarats, who is today present here with us, with her family, with her son Dudik, daughter-in-law Efrat, and her niece Rom. Jewish people from all over the world paid dearly for today's peace and the development of democracy in the world, just as the Macedonian Jews, together with other free-thinking peoples from Macedonia, paid dearly for the one freedom and right to their own state. No, we will never forget the Jewish Roma genocide and the genocide against all those who were at least slightly different from the Aryan race. The Republic of Macedonia, with piety for the Holocaust victims, enabled the denationalization of the Jewish properties without a legal heir. That denationalization represented a precedent within the world legal order and enabled the construction of the Holocaust Memorial Center of the Jews from Macedonia. It is not an ordinary museum that will only bear witness to the sufferings of the Jewish people from these areas. It is also a center for education and a place for coexistence and activities of all generations from these areas, a place where the culture and tradition of the Jewish people are nurtured, a place where many scientific gatherings are organized on various topics, all with the purpose of a better understanding of the people with different religions, cultures, and nationalities. Today, in certain parts of the world, even in the heart of progressive Europe, being Jewish is becoming to be dangerous again. Unfortunately, the ideas of destroying the Jewish people still exist. The world paid a huge price for hesitancy in opposing Hitler. Due to this, it is more important today than ever to show worldwide solidarity in remembering the Holocaust victims and determinedly deal with all the beginnings of anti-Semitism. We must not forget Treblinka, Sobibor, Maidan, Dachau, Auschwitz, Birkenau, Buchenwald, Banica, Bileća, Đakovo, Jasenovac, Lepoglava, and Sajmište. Today, when Nazism and anti-Semitism in the most diverse forms are awakening, not only in Europe but also in the Balkans and in Macedonia, we must say stop. Stop! It is enough with neighbors' insults and belittling, attempts at dominance and superiority. It is enough with senseless wars. It is enough with killing innocents. It is enough with killing women and children. Russia's aggression must stop. No one justifies that war. There is no justifiable reason to attack another country and to kill their people. There is no justifiable reason because of which thousands of innocent lives should be going through the hell of war and colossal forced displacements. The victims of Auschwitz, Birkenau, Treblinka, and the many other death camps must not be in vain. Let those innocent Jewish lives be a guarantee for a better life for people all over the world. All people in the world have the right to live in peace. May their memory live forever. This was the second appearance of the choir, Yosef Beseder. We are here today to oppose each try to negate the truth for the Holocaust, but also each form of hatred towards those who differ from us, to point out to the wrongful ideology that one people can be superior and other inferior race whose lives are not important. We will always wonder what happened 80 years ago with human morale, having in mind that a person is not born with hatred, but it learns it. The Holocaust remains as a permanent reprimand that evil is never defeated, and we always must remove the ideologies that may give it life, at the same time bearing in mind that evil cannot win, destruction cannot win over life and remembrance. Distinguished attendees, now I would like to invite the Ambassador of Israel to the Republic of North Macedonia, Her Excellency Simona Frankel. You may take the floor.
Prime Minister of the Republic of North Macedonia, members of the Government of North Macedonia, members of the Assembly of North Macedonia, colleagues, ambassadors, members of the Diplomatic Corps, representative of religious nominations, representative of Jewish community, representative of Jewish organizations and Jewish communities all over the world, dear Sheila Altratz, Holocaust survivor in Macedonia, living in Israel and present with us tonight. Dear friends, at the outset, I would like to commend the government of North Macedonia and especially Prime Minister Kovachevsky for organizing this event and most of all for standing at the side of the Jewish community and contributing to the preservation of its memory and tradition. Standing here tonight, I represent not only the democratic independent state of Israel, the homeland of the Jewish people. I also stand here on behalf of the descendants of this community who live today in Israel, and especially 7,144 men, women and children, entire families who tragically could not make it to see the foundation of our state. On the night of March 11, 1943, they were put on trains by the fascist occupation regime and sent to the Treblinka extermination camp where they perished in the gas chambers. Together with me here are present two members of the Knesset, Mr. Hamad Amar, chairperson of the Friendship Parliamentarian League from the opposition, and MK Tsega Melako, representing the Likud party from the coalition. Thank you, Speaker of the Assembly and MP Rachel Mizrahi, for inviting the delegation of the Knesset to be present in Skopje at this important date. Your invitations are a sign of a strong relations between our countries and our people. 80 years have passed since the 11th of March 1943, when the Jewish communities from Skopje, Bitola and Stip were taken to the Monopol Tobacco warehouse and imprisoned in a provisional transit camp as a result of a well-planned operation. Over 3 days, the 22nd, 25th, and 29th of March, 77 1,144 Jews were deported to the Treblinka death camp. North Macedonia lost the highest proportion of its Jews of any other country in the world. As many as 98% of them were eradicated during the Holocaust. Only 200 Macedonian Jews survived by the end of the war. Prior to the war, the Jewish communities in Skopje, Bitola, and Stip enjoyed a peaceful community life rich with culture and tradition, as well as the freedom to practice their religion. This life was made possible through mutual respect with the surrounding communities. Today, though the community is tiny, it enjoys the same respect and cooperation with the government and administration. This well-organized event tonight is the best example of that. Today, descendants of those communities live in Israel. In most cases, their ancestors were lucky enough to leave Macedonia before the war. They continue to preserve the memory and their deeply ingrained culture and meet every year, as they did last week, vowing never to forget. Together, both communities, the one still living in North Macedonia and the other in Israel, ensure that the heritage of those who are not among us anymore is kept by keeping mutual connections between Israel and North Macedonia. I take this opportunity to commend Mr. Pepper Levy for leading the Jewish community in North Macedonia since his election as president, and to wish him good luck in his endeavor and good health. Before concluding, I would like to reiterate my thanks and appreciation for the government of North Macedonia and the Macedonian people for being so friendly to my people and country and showing it in every occasion. We all owe to never forget. Thank you.
Ова беше
This was the song Водорводор from Merit Finkelstein. Today, we are paying our respects and we remember those whose future never arrived. We are obligated to convey the message today. The world should never tolerate such evil again. 80 years later, there's a question imposed. How was it possible here on the European continent to witness such tragical act? This memory should only be the beginning and not the end of our responsibility. I would now like to invite the chairperson of the American Jewish Congress, Rabbi Andrew Baker, to present his speech. You may take the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I have been here multiple times over the years. The day's routine is a well-established tradition. We walk to the Monopole Tobacco Factory, we lay a wreath, we travel to the cemetery, we say Kaddish, and we gather here in the evening with speeches and music and poetry. This day, as you all know, marks the 80th anniversary of those deportations that took place in March 1943. That was a fateful year. In January, a large majority of European Jews who would become the 6 million victims of the Holocaust were still alive. By December, the majority were already murdered. It was the most lethal year of the Jewish genocide. There was never any doubt that without Germany, without Hitler, without the Nazi regime, there would be no Holocaust. But without local collaborators and perpetrators, without the assistance of Nazi-allied governments, and if not for those neighbors who turned their backs and the indifference of neutral and allied countries, surely many fewer Jews would have died. Dozens of countries now commemorate the Holocaust. Most do so on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, January 27th, the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. It is more difficult and more challenging to do so on a date of local significance, especially when it reminds people of the crimes of their own ancestors, when it forces them to confront their own national failings. Though this has been difficult, we had once thought that the process would always move in a positive direction. It took decades for democratic states in Western Europe to acknowledge their own role in the Holocaust. By way of example, France and Austria only did so 50 years after the war had ended. Over 20 years ago, several former communist countries established international historical commissions to provide a critical account of that Holocaust history. They began the process, a process of correcting textbooks and removing the misplaced honors that had been accorded to fascist-era figures. In neighboring Bulgaria, a veil was lifted on two very different stories. There was the near miraculous rescue of 50,000 Jews through the active intervention of church leaders, of parliamentarians, of concerned neighbors. Meanwhile, in this land, occupied by Bulgaria, over 7,000 Jews were rounded up by Bulgarian police and deported to Treblinka. 15 years ago, a Bulgarian president could say, and I quote, "When we express justifiable pride at what we have done to save Jews, we do not forget that at the same time there was an anti-Semitic regime in Bulgaria, and we do not shirk our responsibility for the fate of more than 11,000 Jews who were deported from Thrace and Macedonia to death camps," end quote. This is no less true now than it was in 2008. But who will say it now? Before the fall of communism, there was ignorance and obfuscation. In much of Central and Eastern Europe, the truth of the Holocaust was not known. But that excuse is long past. Today, those who distort the history of the Holocaust, those who deny the Holocaust's true perpetrators, do so knowingly and willingly. They do it for political expediency, and they do it to hurt. We must put a stop to this denial and distortion. We owe it to the memory of those Holocaust victims whom we mourn today. But we owe it even more to our children and our grandchildren. Thank you.
Gospodine Becker.
Mr. Baker, thank you for your speech. The Macedonian Jews were appreciated citizens, intellectuals, doctors, lawyers, professors, musicians. They've had their families, nice homes, and good lives, thanks to their know-how. 80 years have passed since the day when 7,144 Jews from Skopje, Bitola, Štip, and Macedonia were gathered in so-called monopole and were sent on a path without return. What was their offense? Their personality, their existence, their culture, their tradition. The Holocaust remains the general measurement for what evil can do, what evil hidden in person can do. Now I would like to announce a short movie recorded for Madam Sheila Alterets, Jewish woman who was saved from the Holocaust.
רחל שלה ציון, שם נעוריי.
My name is Rahila Shila Sion, and I was born in Shtip, Macedonia. There was a times when I thought that this was the prettiest city in the world. All Jews from Shtip were Sephards, and all of them in the community were very close and related. This was a Jewish community that should have served for an example. On 6th of April 1941, Nazi Germany attacked parts of Europe, and on 22nd April 1941, Macedonia was occupied. Bulgarian fascist troops in Macedonia made many anti-Jewish acts. To me, it was not easy to visit Shtip. It is not easy for me to go around Shtip because there is not a single Jewish person in Shtip today. My mother always warned me, be careful. These are not our people. These are not Macedonian. Stay aside or they will kidnap you. Stay aside, my dear. If you see Bulgarian soldiers, go home immediately. By forming the Commissariat for Jewish Questions, all Jews were forced to leave their homes. On 10th of March 1943, all of us gathered in our house at home because on 11th of March we should have organized a memorial for my father. All of us were very happy and joyous that evening because we were together on the same table. We're all relaxed. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, someone banged at the door. Some of us got up to open the door, and there were 2 soldiers in green uniforms. Get up, get up, get up. You must be in front of the door in half an hour. And in half an hour, we had to be in front of the doors. Since we lived in the Jewish quarter, they gathered people house by house, and in a long line, we all went to the railway station. "550 people stood here waiting for the train, and my mother kept me close so that we can stay together. Then she got on the stairs and they got me and took me opposite of her. I was shocked and I was only yelling, "Mother, mother, mother, where are you?" It was terrible mess, and I think that there were 100 of people in one wagon. It was terribly cold outside and it was terribly hot inside. There was no air, nor light on the train. We traveled about 4 hours standing on our feet. We arrived here on 11th of March 1943. Bulgarians collaborated with the Nazis, and they were terrible. On 11th of March, early morning, the Jews from Skopje, Bitola, and Shtip were forcefully taken from their homes by the Bulgarian police and taken to the tobacco factory Monopol in Skopje that was turned into a camp. There was a whole army here. There was a soldier on each step of the way. Our bed was right here. There were 500 women with children here. The soldier that served food could barely go through. He did not serve food. He threw one piece of bread in the morning and one piece of bread in the evening. Water, there was no water. It was stiff. There was no air to breathe. It was a total darkness. not a single ray of light, no air. We lived in continuous fear, but my mother said, "You will see, we will go back home one day." And I said, how stupid can my mother be? Does she not understand that we will never get out from here? Not once, in one single moment, she left me that to think that the situation is becoming worse. On the contrary, she said, "We will go back to our normal lives. You will see." Sheila's sister, Bella Cohen, was married to David Cohen, Jewish with the origin from Pristina, who at that time was under Italian occupation. As an Italian citizen, Bella Cohen received a permit to abandon the temporary camp in the monopole, and together with her, Sheila left the camp by accident. We're at the camp in monopole when one day they told Bella that she can leave the camp because she was under Italian authority in Pristina. They gave her the permit to go back home. We all went on the small concrete balcony, the whole family. We all cried and we hugged her. We were very sad because she was leaving. As she was leaving, my mother pushed me towards her and said, "Take the little one with you." She reached behind without even throwing a look. Her hand was trembling of fear, and when we abandoned the camp, Bella started crying. "How did I not see you? How did I not see you? I thought they will kill us because of you. You left without anyone's permit. Do you understand that? You left without a permit." She started crying. She bursted into tears. Naturally, I started crying. And we stood together and we cried. As we cried and we kissed and we consoled each other. And then we saw how the Jewish are taken from the monopole. They kicked them. And I cannot describe how horrendous this whole image was, the way in which they were taken out. I said, "It is enough. I cannot see or look at this anymore." And I covered my face with my coat. When I woke up, she said they took them and there were no trains, no people, no soldiers, no noise. Soon after Bella and Sheila abandoned the camp, their families were deported with a cargo train together with all other Jews from Stip. By the end of March 1943, all Jews were deported from Monopol to Treblinka camp in Poland. Her mother, her brother Mois, and her sister Julia, together with the whole family, were sent in Treblinka by the end of March 1943. Dear attendees, Madam Sheila Autarats is today with us here, so I would like to ask you to give her a round of applause. To wish her long years of health, and of course, to live a long life. This is the fight and victory of life over evil. And now, dear attendees, we'll hear one of the most beautiful songs of Open Sierra, known as the Choir of Jews, from the opera на бука.
Беше тоа време
It was times of monstrosities and humiliation, times when dreams were lost overnight, fates remained halfway, many looks died forever. But 8 decades later, we are here again to mention them, to witness the thousands innocent souls sent to eternity. Dear attendees, allow me to announce the second part of the evening with the appearances of the Philharmonic Orchestra and the choir of the National Opera and Ballet. You will hear the songs Requiem, Dies Irae, and Lacrimosa.
Почитувани.
Dear attendees, without remembers, there will be no future. On behalf of the future, in the very end, we convey our message. We will forgive, but we will not forget. Because the sufferings of the Macedonian Jews are our responsibility. I will end with the words of Mr. Romano. Do not be silent when people are sent to ghettos under which sun is short, looks are broken. Wish for the times when, instead of ghettos, people will want white skies, suns, chats, and looks. May they always be remembered. Have a good evening.
За да осигураме безбедна иднина за генерацијата после нашата, сите денес мораме да покажеме дека сме извлекле поуки од минатото. А тоа ќе го направиме само ако застанеме одлучно против екстремни националистички и популистички идеологии кои што водат кон фанатизам. Индиферентноста кон екстремизмот е соучешништво и е неприфатлива, истакна председателот на владата Ковачевски во пригодниот говор. Тој рече: овие вистини посебно не смеат да подлежат на ревизионизам. Тоа е рецепт за повторување на ужасните трагедии како холокаустот. А ние, кои се сеќаваме, сме должни да работиме активно и да оставиме поука за помладите од нас за никогаш повеќе да не се повтори. Да не биде прекинат со ужасно зло ниту еден детски сон, повика премиерот Ковачевски. Председателот на еврејската заедница Пепо Леви рече дека евреите во светот скапо го платија денешниот мир, но и дека никогаш нема да биде заборавен геноцидот врз 7144 македонски евреи кои на најбрутален начин биле убиени во логорот Треблинка. Почитувани, ви благодарам за вниманието со кое не следевте. Останете со програмата на јавниот сервис. Добра ноќ.